Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that has no words, our voices in our sword. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most Saturday mornings, or available to download later in your podcast feed. Unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Oh, wow. Patrons get those perks. I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and each week we'll chat about movies, TV, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. And please welcome our guest this week. He's Ian freaking Whittington. Of course he has a podcast microphone. It's Ian Whittington, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello! I feel like that has to be my thing when I get to do the perks. It's as seductive as possible.
That's right. Sexy British voice. Coming in strong. Coming in hot. Good to have you here, man. I will let you know. As you're listening, you can probably already tell Andrew taking the week off, getting some well-deserved rest. So Ian and I are going to rock the show today. Talk a little bit about the new Scream movie that's in theaters, tragedy of Macbeth, since we have an Englishman here who knows everything about Shakespeare.
Killing that stereotype. I love it.
Yes, just absolute. Everybody,
Great.
I don't know if you know this. I'm just going to let our listeners know. I don't know if you know this, but every single person in England knows everything about the Bard, Willie Shakes.
Now, I'm not going to do anything to dissuade that because it's true. We do it so much at school. You're not wrong.
I bet it is true. I bet it is a much larger part of your education than it is
huge.
Ours.
All of English Lit is 500 years old. It's great.
Ah, yes, the benefits of having a centuries old nation. Well done. Don't know what that's like. You know, we're trying to get up to 300 here.
In your teens, basically.
Basically, adolescence. It definitely feels like adolescence around here.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Definitely does feel that way.
I don't want to wear a mask.
All right, so we are going to get into those reviews. We've also got a best ever challenge. One of my favorite best ever challenges we've ever done.
This is great. This is so good.
I'll go ahead and tell you, we did best ever imperative movies. These are movie titles that are telling you to do something. And yeah, this was a lot of fun to put together, so I'm excited to get to that. And then, of course, we'll do some buried treasure as well. But let's go ahead and get into it with our reviews. We'll kick it off with Scream. No, thank you, Ian. Thank you. Your microphone thanks you as well.
No!
The last half of that scream was your microphone screaming, I believe.
It was stop screaming over me. Nice.
Just in pain. 25 years after a streak of brutal murders shocked the quiet town of Woodsboro, a new killer has donned the ghost face mask and begins targeting a group of teenagers to resurrect secrets from the town's deadly past. We've got Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette coming back to this one. And then a various cast of people you may have seen in other places. I'll go ahead and say their names. Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, Jack Quaid, Mikey Madison, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Dylan Minette, and many others as well. Scream is the fifth in the Scream franchise, yet it is still somehow just called Scream, which, of course, in a Scream movie is talked about in the Scream movie, because that's what Scream movies do, is they talk about Scream movies, but they call them stab movies. but we'll get there. Ian, on the scale of liked it, loved it, disliked it, hated it, or it was just okay, what did you think about Scream?
Are you ready for this journey? So I started off, man, I liked it. Then I really, really liked it. Then I hated it. And then I liked it. I liked it. That's where I am bang in the middle of liked it. But I went on a trip.
Yeah, sounds like you had both ends of the passion spectrum there for a bit, which I guess makes sense that you would end up in the liked it camp. I'm going to go high side of liked it, actually. I think I could say I really liked this movie.
Nice.
Of the Scream sequels, and I guess we'll start here. And by the way, for our Sif Pop members, we did an extended conversation of our experience with the Scream movies, what we thought about the different movies, those kind of things. You can check that out at our Patreon, patreon.com/siftpop. But I will say, of the Scream sequels, I think this is my favorite. It might be a little recency bias. I do have a soft place in my heart for 3 a little bit, just because the humor is really good in that one. But
it's definitely my favorite, this one.
Well, you've only seen 4 and 5, or Scream redo. So yeah, 4 is the worst. So that doesn't surprise me. But
re-Scream.
So I really, really enjoyed it. And I think what I liked the most about it is that it's felt like, since the first one, this one had the best balance of honoring the genre, feeling like it understood what people love about horror movies, and at the same time, the meta-ness, the winks, the quirky stuff. There were brief moments, and maybe this gets into your moments of hating it, although I'm excited to go on this journey with you when you kind of explain it a little bit more. There were moments where I was like, okay, that wink was a little too hard.
My eyeball fell out.
There's a difference between looking at the camera going like that and going... You know what I mean?
Hey, look what we're doing here.
And apologies to the audio audience. Feel free to look up on YouTube what I just did. But let's just say one wink was subtle and the other wink was very, very not subtle. And there are some of those winks in this movie that are just like, you kind of shattered the fourth wall in a way there that may not have a ability to recover. But for me, those moments were few and far between enough that the movie seemed to live in the better balance. It seemed to me that this movie lives in the better balance in a lot of ways. So, yeah, I come out really enjoying it. What are some of your general thoughts?
I mean, I know the importance of Scream and I know what it's about. And I really, having 4 and this one as the 2 that I've seen is actually really helpful, because 4 feels like an entirely different group of people made it to the rest of the Scream films. And then it feels like the original people watched 4 and then said, you know what? Let's make a real Scream film. And they made this. And it feels like this is exactly what this type of movie and what the Scream franchise is supposed to do. It's just self-referential enough to be entertaining and to actually be a commentary without just using it as a crutch to do all the things that it complains about horror films doing. So I had a really good time. I think the original cast is used sparingly and to good effect. The new cast is great. Jack Quaid steals the show for me, as he does in most things. I just had a really good time. There are some of those winks that are they are not winks. It's like holding the phone up to the screen and saying, hey, look what we just did. You're absolutely right. But there's not many of them. I'm interested. This isn't always a great way to judge a film, but I'm interested how a rewatch will feel, because so much of these films are whodunit. And I think Scream is apparently so rewatchable because it's still fun to watch even if you know whodunit. And I'm not too sure about this one.
I think so. I think the mystery element of this will hold up. I mean, like it's.
I hope so. Yeah.
I think there are several elements to rewatching a movie like this. One is rewatching knowing the end, like knowing the killer's motives, like all that kind of stuff. And then there is, if your mind isn't occupied with whodunit, what is your mind occupied with?
Exactly. Right? Is there enough to hold on to?
So, and I think there is. I think there's enough humor. I think there's some really fun performance stuff. If you are a horror fan, which I, people know, am not, you've got the kills. You've got, some of the interesting things it's doing with knives and necks and
yeah, funnily enough, I might be on an island here, but I'm quite triggered by watching people get stabbed. That might be very strange, but I don't like it.
Isn't that the point though? I mean, you're more of a horror fan than I am. In fact, you would describe yourself as a horror fan. Isn't that kind of the point, is to be shocked? Not grossed out, but shocked. I
may not be representative of horror fans in general, but for me it's just not. Like, I look away. Like, I like the element of shock, of oh my gosh, I can't believe they just did that, but actually watching it's not for me. I'm the one that looks away. So maybe I'm a bit of a paradoxical horror fan, but the blood and the stabbing and the literally through a neck, no thank you.
Yeah, so anyhow, I think there are reasons to rewatch a movie like this, and for me, the rewatch would be seeing how well the mystery holds together, and also re-experiencing some of those funny moments, some of the clever meta-ness. The meta-ness gets clever enough that you do kind of have to think through it at points. There's the other beauty about these movies, at least I believe, and maybe there are those who disagree. I think in most movies, dating yourself is a problem. Like when you put in pop culture references that are just hot right now,
or pop songs,
which
Scream is great at doing that. Yeah.
With Scream, though, I think it works because oddly they want to date themselves. Oddly, they, the sense of when it is happening and what's popular then is kind of part of the point. Maybe I'm, maybe I'm in the minority on that, but the idea that the movie shouts out some really interesting references and plays really fast and loose with just saying real things from our world. Yeah. Is really interesting. And then at the same time, your main character, well, let's see, man, that's a spoiler. I guess I can't say that. I guess I'll hold that for a SIF spoil, which, by the way, I think we should do a short one on this.
I think
because
so.
It's a murder mystery, and there's some stuff we don't want to spoil for you.
For sure.
But it still would be interesting to talk about. So yeah, we will do a SIF spoil on that, and I will save the name. Let's just say the name of one of the characters is, straight up name of the character in another horror film. And it's just like, okay, I see what you're doing here, and I kind of like it because it's like, it doesn't linger on it in a way, but it is kind of contradictory towards the like real world stuff. And then there's, this stuff that's like, well, that doesn't feel like that could be a real thing. So yeah.
I think I know where you went with that.
Okay,
you did a valiant job.
I tried to tiptoe around as much as possible.
Great.
Some other thoughts from you?
Yeah, I'm not sure the resolution of the mystery of who done it paid off for me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that is where I drifted into hated it.
Oh.
Yeah, but something pulled me back into liked it. Now that has to be in the SIF spoil where we go into that, and it looks like that's where we diverge. But
because it sounds like the hated it and the liked it like happened really quickly there at the end.
Oh, really? And the fact that I landed on liked it and probably close to where you are is a testament to how quickly it pulled me back into liked it. So for me, the mystery doesn't pay off. I think the tone of the meta-ness is great. So there's one scene that grinds the movie to a halt for me, and it's where they describe what this Scream movie is, and
the requel kind of
the requel scene. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for me, it was like, wow, this is a scene in a movie, and you're going to sit down and watch it. It was so self-aware, but I think it was valuable. It hit you over the head with what the movie is and what exactly it's critiquing. So yeah, being subtle is great, but a lot of pieces fell into place for me after seeing that. I was like, oh man, this is really clever. But part of me wishes it had found a way to get there without sitting everyone in a room and explaining it.
You're always going to have that in murder mysteries, though. You have to,
Yes.
because you have to have, like, the audience has to know. Even if you look at one of the most incredible movies ever made, Knives Out, you look at that movie and there are people sitting in a room talking because we have to experience all of these suspects and we have to experience all of their possible motives and all of, so it's a different kind of exposition, but it's definitely, exposition, but it is part of both the horror genre and the murder mystery genre. So, it's definitely something that we're going to have. And you're right, that scene that you're talking about is so crucial to where we go. It is so important to what's going on here. So,
so I both loved it and hated it. I was like, I wouldn't remove it from the film, but it's the first time I felt myself looking around thinking, right, what's next? Because I think that's what I'll say on that. It's definitely needed, but oof, did I realize it was needed?
Let's talk a little bit about this new cast, this new group, because I want to mention the twins, Mason Gooding and Jasmine Savoy Brown play the Weeks twins, which are, this isn't a spoiler, anything, but they are the Randy character, right, from the first one. They are his sister's kids. Correct.
So their uncle was killed in the first film by Billy, what's his bucket?
Loomis.
Loomis, yeah. Wow, Loomis. I remember Billy, but not Loomis.
Yeah, congratulations.
Great.
On that. Yes, Billy Loomis and whoever the second killer was. Which which I forget, and therefore I am dead.
Stu.
Jack Quaid is great. You mentioned Jack Quaid. Dylan Minnette, I think, is great. And then there's Mikey Madison, who I think does really well. But then at the center of it is Jenna Ortega as Tara Carpenter and Melissa Barrera as Sam Carpenter as sisters. I like them. I think it's kind of honestly an unfortunate consequence of these kind of movies that the central characters are often the most boring. And it was harder for me to connect to them. They tried to do some new interesting things with, Melissa's character. But Jenna especially, I don't know. I just wanted more from those two. Their relationship as sisters, I wanted more from. It was the part of the movie that I was just like, this feels like it could have been better to me. Did you feel any of that?
Totally agree. It's the one part of the film where they don't do anything interesting, and maybe that's deliberate. Like they are the two centerpieces of your slasher horror film. They are Jamie Lee Curtis. They are whoever you put front and center, and they don't do anything different. Like pretty much everyone around them says, hey, this next thing I'm about to do is what happens in horror films, so I'm not going to do it. And it's interesting because they kind of don't do it. They do something different. They may end up in the same place, but they try to do something different. These two characters do exactly what they're expected to do throughout the whole film, and is by far and away the most predictable part. Now, it's delivered great. Like the actors themselves really, really bought it and enjoyed it. But yeah, no, totally agree. It feels like if you're really going to be meta, do something with the quote unquote final girls.
Yeah. I'm glad you used that phrase because it reminded me to bring up something I wanted to bring up about this kind of new, interesting shift over the last 20, 30 years of horror from the idea of horror being an exploitation of women. And the final girl thing is really because girls were the sexy thing to put on camera, and they could, run around in their underwear, and and they
fall down.
They were the ones killers were killing for not being virginal. All of these tropes that come from kind of an icky place, in horror. And it's been interesting to see horror shift this to this empowerment thing for the final girls. And like every horror movie you watch now has this hero shot of multiple women. It's kind of almost becoming a cliche, but I still kind of love it because there is something really interesting about turning that on its head and making the final girl mentality an empowering thing, and the power of these women and the strength of them. So yeah, I found that shift. You see it in the Halloween franchise. You see it, in kind of what's going on in horror in general. And I noticed it here.
I do feel like we're at the peak of that, and I feel like we're now at a place where they're untouchable. So I'm kind of going into the last few horror films that I've seen where they're never in any danger. Like I have no inkling that they're going to be killed, basically. Yeah, is the word. And yeah, I think that's affecting it for me because you should root for them. And if they're being chased, you should feel like they're in danger, and they're just not.
I will say
maybe that's fine.
Well, there's an element of this one that actually does something new with that idea that we can't talk about until the Sif spoil. So I won't even really dance around it because I don't even want to hint at it. But there is an element of what it's doing with the final girl mentality here that is different, that I've never seen before, at least. And I'm excited to talk about that in the Sif spoil. But yes, you've got Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette coming back. How did you feel about seeing them in this? Of course, you've never seen the original, so
this is where I miss out. Like it is buttered on so thick. I can feel the nostalgia, and I can feel the audience. And even though there's only 3 people in the theater with me, I can feel everyone going, "Oh, it's so good to see them on screen." Fine. I'm. Is it a spoiler to say they're not in it a huge amount? I don't know. I just said it.
I think that's understandable for these requels, legacy sequels, whatever people want to call them. That the legacy people aren't in it necessarily a ton. Although you look at Halloween, and Jamie Lee Curtis certainly is at the center of that one. So
which is why, that's a bad example, isn't it? It's fascinating. But I think they used the correct amount. I enjoyed seeing them. I think all of their performances are a billion times better and more convincing than 4. Man, Dewey in 4 is essentially his character in Scary Movie. He's so stupid and ridiculous, and they were far more enjoyable to watch in this film. And I think there was a good amount of restraint with what they were given to do that I really enjoyed.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I thought David Arquette was really good. I thought Neve Campbell was really good. I thought Courtney Cox was fine. Take that as you will. But yeah, I thought it was good to have them in the movie. Somebody who really likes the original. I think they were used well in the film. I guess we can kind of do one last thing, unless you have a bunch of stuff you want to talk about.
No, I mean, I might do if I had seen the entire franchise, but I even as a standalone horror film, I enjoyed it. I think this is of the 2 that I've watched, this is the one that I'll watch again.
My one last thing is that I think this movie does some really fun things with the modernization of the slasher film. It deals with modern life honestly in a lot of ways. There's a moment, I'm going to go ahead and say it here, minor spoiler for the first scene of this movie, so you'll see this pretty quickly, but there's a moment where they're doing the typical, want to play a game, and they do the trivia game, and the character looks up an answer on their phone. And it's just
I was so thankful.
It's so perfect. And the movie has several of those kind of moments where it's like, no, we're aware that modern life has changed how this would go down.
Yeah. I was squirming because she's on the landline. She has a mobile phone in her hand. And I'm like, please, I'm begging you. I am begging you to Google this, please.
Yeah. And she does.
Which is great.
So the movie does have those moments, so I did want to shout that out as well. It's a recommend for me, a non-horror fan. I think it really does capture the energy and spirit of the first better than any of the other sequels have. And it does the thing that Lego sequels do so well. It kind of merges you into
play in the universe.
Yeah. In a way that really feels like it's genuinely wrestling and honoring the entirety of what's going on here. And unlike the Halloween Lego sequels, this movie is saying everything's still canon. 1 through 4, all that really happened. It's so so that's fun to me too. I like it when a franchise is willing to be canonically consistent and just say, hey, we maybe don't like 4, but it happened.
Yeah. How would it do it otherwise? Like, can you imagine if it did a memory one? I don't know. Maybe that's where it's going next, but yeah.
I don't know. Well, there you go. That is Scream. It is in theaters only for now. I'm sure it will quickly make its way to be available on digital. So you can go check that out. All right, let's move on to the tragedy of Macbeth. Macbeth, the Thane of Glamis, receives a prophecy from a trio of witches that one day he will become king of Scotland. Consumed by ambition and spurred to action by his wife, Macbeth murders his king and takes the throne for himself. Spoilers! This is the tragedy of Macbeth. Interestingly enough, this one is I was going to say the Coen brothers, but it's not.
Nope. It's just Joel Coen.
Just Joel doing this one. You can find it on Apple TV Plus. You've got Denzel Washington at the center, and an incredible cast heading out in this one, including Frances McDormand. Brendan Gleeson shows up in there, and lots of others doing really great work. This is written by a man named Will.
I think he prefers Bill.
Shaka Sperry. Bill Shaka Sperry.
Yep. Shaka Sperry.
So, no, but it's interesting. Black and white, very, I think the aspect ratio is like 4:3, like some interesting choices going on here. What did you think about the tragedy of Macbeth? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay?
I liked it.
That's it.
That's where I am. Liked
Fair
it.
enough.
Just above it's okay. I liked it.
Man, I struggled with this one, Ian. I am still going to say I liked it. And
I think we're exactly in the same place.
It's one of those movies. I'm going to say low side of liked it. I think that better reflects my overall feelings. It is one of those movies where you go in with an expectation and then you come out going, yeah, that's the movie I thought I was going to see.
And somehow that's disappointing.
And somehow it is. I don't know.
Yes.
It's just
because we're uncultured. That's why.
Well, I know the story of Macbeth. Like, I've seen other Macbeths. It's not my favorite Shaka Sperry. So, like, I already have a little bit going against it because this story to me is just a little bit. I mean, obviously, when this story came out, it was so fresh, and you have no idea. The first time I went to the theater in the Round in England and watched Shakespeare, nobody had ever done a story like this. But it has just become such everything in this story has been troped to death in other stories throughout time, and so it does have that element of just feeling like, I don't know, do I need to watch this again?
I really enjoyed Sif Pop episode 3 where you covered the original 1606 version.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. So that element is balanced with, oh my goodness, Joel Coen, look what you did. Like, some of these scenes
man,
gorgeous. Like, this is an every frame a painting kind of movie. And
some of the transitions between shots,
yes,
unreal.
Yeah. It is kind of that thing. Is a film nerd, you're just going, Joel Coen, way to go. And then at the same time you're going, but for me, watching movies is about experiencing a story, learning something, thinking about something, feeling something, and those things, it's just really technically amazing, So I just kind of come out of it, feeling like, props for a movie that I just didn't find my way into.
Hand on heart, were you scrolling when you watched the film? Did you reach for your phone? Did you find yourself having
I did, but for the most part I think I was recaptured by the visuals enough not to do that. I apologize for all the people that lets down, but yeah, it is one of those movies was like, I know this story. I know I understand the speech that's happening here. So,
I say it not to shame you, but to make myself feel better, because I found myself doing the same, and I was like, you know what, Ian, you're being a bit of an arse here. So I put the phone down, 25 seconds later, I was like, nope, I can't do it. I can't do it. I know this. But you're right. You get sucked back in with some of the visuals. Like, we give out quite a bit about using black and white and what does it really serve. And I don't think some of these shots work. I know some of these shots don't work if it's in color. It is almost like an acid trip, like not that I know what that is like, but what movies tell me an acid trip is like for some of the transitions and some of the visuals. And it is absolutely gorgeous for a film I have no interest in watching again.
Yeah, you're right. Of the black and white movie, this year has just been black and white,
monochromatic
after black and white after black and white, and for some of them, I'm looking at you, Come On, and possibly even Belfast. There you kind of go, why? For this one, I kind of get it. You're making several artistic choices here that are meant to give you an ability to capture something different, to capture something in a way that hasn't been captured before. And you're right, some of it doesn't work if it's in color. So I get it here. I understand it here. I still don't connect to that artistic, artsy thing that's like, oh, black and white is so much more cinematic,
elevated.
You know what it reminds? It reminds me of something that I generally push back against. I think it's a type of nostalgia. I think what we're dealing with here are emotions of the way it used to be, and
trying to recapture the golden age.
You see this in, the pushback again. Now, there are other reasons for this, and we can go into them or not. I don't care. We can have this conversation. I love this conversation. High frame rate. When we talk about like the idea of more frames per second, the idea of doing 60, 90, 120 frames every second, which is crazy how much clearer and brighter and, this stuff is. But there's this pushback against, no, what about the grain of the film? What about the, and it's like, well, the grain of the film was annoying to the first people who had to watch. If they could have had digital, they would have been like, give me digital.
Gosh, Why are people choosing to listen to this song on vinyl?
Right. It's like, well, okay. So vinyl actually has advantages over this compression that's in some digital. Like I can kind of see that. And there is something with, film, like actual film, that for a long time did have advantages over digital. You could only do a certain resolution in digital, but the resolutions you can do in digital now and the frame rates you can do eliminate any of that advantage that film actually has. And I know there are film lovers who would argue the opposite side. I understand that. But I'm just saying, I think for me, this love of black and white, this love of film grain, the little bit of blurriness to a film as opposed to it being super sharp and clear, is just because that's how we've experienced it. It's just that normal human nature thing of this is what I know and this is what I think a movie is supposed to look like. And we are missing some pretty intense, incredible experiences sometimes because we're not playing with color or playing with sharper images or those kind of things.
It almost feels a bit easy, doesn't it? Going black and white.
Yeah. There is that element of it. So I understand that there are things you can do in black and white that you can't do in color because it washes out, the need to color correct. There is color correction in black and white. Please, I understand that, but I'm just saying to
Aaron, do you even watch movies?
I don't. I'm so defensive today. I have no idea why I'm so defensive today. But anyhow, I am pro technology changing the way we watch things. Anytime I get a chance to see something in high frame rate, I am pumped to do so, especially in 3D, which is another technology we can talk about. Can be such a tool to tell stories. So yeah, I'm excited to see Avatar 2 later this year, what James Cameron does. It may be the first. Well, I mean,
it comes out.
It really feels like it's happening this year, Ian. I'm telling you,
I'm sure it does.
Like it.
I'm sure it does.
Like I'm trying to figure out like how far am I willing to drive to see Avatar in the highest frame rate in the best theater, and because he is so keen on the digital experience and using those tools perfectly. It'll probably be the first time I really seek out a 3D movie in a long time. Yeah. Even though I love 3D, I was always a proponent of 3D, still am. But I think it goes hand in hand with frame rate and maybe glasses-free technology, which,
totally.
becomes a little bit of an issue. But yeah, anyhow, that's a little bit of a bunny trail there. But as you watch something like this, you go, I get it on some level, but I do think there's the beauty that cinematographers talk about with black and white is a nostalgia thing more than anything else.
No, I don't disagree.
Yep.
Having said that, it's great in this movie.
It is. What else do you want to talk about with MacBeth? How was the story for you, Ian?
Well, shock, twists and turns abound. There's always that element of maybe they will, but that wasn't what this movie was going for.
That's
it
not
wasn't.
What this movie is.
That wasn't the idea. I will say, I don't know if it's me being uncultured or whatever. I say that tongue in cheek, but I feel like all of the actors were having a much better time than anybody watching it. Like they were eating it up, and it's up there with probably one of, if not the best MacBeth performances that I've seen. Like Denzel is stunning. Like he is absolutely delivering it. Frances McDormand, I think, steals the film and absolutely kills Lady Macbeth. And the casting's just fantastic. They absolutely nailed the casting. There's some interesting turns on the characters that are really enjoyable. I've just got sucked back into Classroom. I was really surprised how many of the speeches I remembered. And it's great because it means that I understood them a bit better because I had to pull them apart at school. But it just reminded me that, man, I've seen this film so many times. And it's hard to treat the film fairly because you shouldn't judge it by all of the other adaptations. It's its own thing and let it be that. But I think going into a story like Macbeth, you've got to accept that there's going to be some baggage with it. But yeah, having said that, I think all of the performances are great. I would love to perhaps just rewatch the Denzel and Frances McDormand stuff. I think they absolutely nail it.
Yeah.
But it's still Macbeth.
But it's still just Macbeth. And, you know, it wasn't 5 years ago. There was another Macbeth that came out. I'm trying to remember who was in that. I think that was 2016, 2015. That was the Fassbender Macbeth.
Yes.
And yeah, you always just kind of wonder, are they going to put some sort of spin on it? Are they going to do,
you're kind of expecting it, aren't you?
And
and there's so many Shakespeare stories. Surprise, surprise. He wrote quite a bit. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he has quite a few plays that he made. I want to see more Othello. I want to see more stuff like that, which has a far more interesting story to me, far more engaging. This power hungry madman story, kind of done with it.
Yeah. Are there any movie like, Lion King is based on Hamlet? What is it? I'm forgetting.
West Side Story based on
Clueless.
Romeo and Juliet?
No. Clueless is based on Shakespeare too, right?
I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, what? 50? Not 51st. Damn it! Yeah, he wrote 51st Dates. No, 10 Things I Hate About. 10 Things I Hate About You is
Clueless
was based on Taming of the Shrew.
Yeah. Taming of the Shrew, 10 Things So, like, is there anything like that for Macbeth? Am I missing something in my cultural awareness of somebody who was like, let's take Macbeth and like
Game
do
of Thrones?
That story, but well, okay,
I'm sure there is. There's not one for me that's as famous as 10 Things I Hate About You. Not one that's coming to mind. Man sees prophecy, kills king.
Yeah. I just did a quick search, and the one that came up was Men of Respect. This is a 1991 crime thriller that takes Macbeth with John Turturro as the lead and basically puts it in a gangster setting. So,
interesting.
So there's one. I've never heard of that movie. Never seen it, but just a quick Google search revealed it. So
it's so broad. There's plenty of films you could call as Macbethish.
Yeah, totally. I don't know that I have much else to say about this.
No, I really don't.
I think we kind of covered all the things I wanted to talk about. As far as recommending it, it's hard not to, considering the performances and how beautiful it is.
It feels like an insult to not recommend it, doesn't it? But
it does. It feels like it deserves a recommend. But yeah, it's so funny because it feels like we're coming out of this going, this movie was okay, maybe didn't like it. But no, we both said we liked it because it's just that it is that technically achieving, even though like story is so important to me, and story here is just it's Macbeth.
Yeah, it's like I know every beat of this so much.
Yeah, true.
It's becoming the new Spider-Man origin story.
Fair enough.
Spider-Man did it first.
Tragedy of Macbeth is on Apple TV Plus. I don't know if we mentioned that yet, but it is available there. And that is where you can watch it. Before we head on to the best ever challenge, we are going to remind you that there is a membership at Patreon that you can check out, take a look at, patreon.com/SifPop. SifPop members get a lot of fun stuff depending on the level of membership. I mentioned, I think previously in this episode, that we talked about the Scream franchise in a little bit more detail on the members only bonus show. So there is a level of SifPop member that gets your own podcast feed where you get all the main episodes ad-free, so no ads in those episodes for members, as well as all the bonus podcasts, which we try to do one every single week. For the most part, we're able to accomplish that. So go check that out at patreon.com/SifPop. There's also monthly hangouts, all sorts of fun stuff for our SifPop members. So again, that's patreon.com/SifPop. All right, let's move into the best ever challenge. As mentioned, one of my favorites in a long time. Best ever imperative movies. Here's how I know when I've locked onto a best ever challenge that I really love. I don't want to stop researching.
Yes.
like, I know there's more. I know there's more in this category.
My favorite thing about this is that everything is an imperative movie if you change the tone slightly.
Like, I mean, yeah, you can
most is like Back to the Future.
Yeah, right. Like, yes, you could. I did think about cheating a few. I don't think I cheated. There's one on my list that is just a. But I think it's intentional. I think it's one that plays with, like Scream does, the fact that it is both a thing, a scream, and also scream, like telling you should scream. You know, I have one like that, but
I have one like that as well, and it's very specific, and I think you'll allow it, but it's exactly the same.
Nice. I was curious how everybody would do this.
I was tempted to really push it. It's like Spider-Man.
All right, Ian. All right. Off the show. You're never coming back. Yeah, no. But again, this is one of those topics where it's like, no, I don't want to cheat it that much because it's such a beautiful topic already. And there are plenty of good examples of these kind of movies. So let's go from number 5 to number 1. Ian, why don't you kick us off? What's your number 5 movie with an imperative movie title?
This is my dodgy one, and it only applies to one in the franchise, and it's Saw.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that works. Absolutely. Sure.
Because especially like the first one, spoiler, he has to saw to escape. So it is very much, it's not as intended, I think, as an imperative, but for this one it is, to get out of this, you're going to have to saw, my man. I'm sorry. So I enjoyed that.
Saw is a perfectly fine choice. I did not have that on my list.
No,
not a fan
that's
of
understandable.
Movies, but
this one in particular I love. I've definitely spoken about it on this show before. That twist at the end where he's in the room all along and the score that is not... These movies are not worthy of the score that is in them. The bum 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 bum. It's so good. So if I reach for a Saw film, it's this one.
Ian's number 5 is Saw. My number 5 is Say Anything.
I haven't seen this.
This is really good. There may be a little bit of nostalgia here, a little bit of, seeing this at a time. But this, and there are a lot of tropes here. There are a lot of romantic tropes, those kind of things. But the indelible image of him holding the boombox up and, playing the song. And there's just a lot of great stuff here in this movie. Just a lot of performances from young actors who have gone on to great careers, and you can just see the charisma just dripping off the screen in the chemistry from these people. So Say Anything is one of my favorites. So that comes in at number 5 for me. Let's move on to our number 4s. What do you got at number 4?
Burn After Reading.
Yes.
I think this is my favorite Coen Brothers film, and I know that's tough competition. There's a lot. Something about this I keep coming back to, and it's
Brad Pitt.
It's Brad Pitt for sure, but there's also the it's just all of the scenes where it's like, well, what did we learn? I mean, like, it's the fact that the FBI guys, everything resolves itself. I was like, well, I don't know if we learned anything. I was like, well, great.
yeah.
Gets me every time. And just the scene of Brad Pitt hiding in the closet and then George Clooney just bam, dead. I think it's one of the most shocking moments I've had in a cinema. It's definitely top 5 because when did this come out? 2006 or 7, something like that.
Yeah, probably. The Coen Brothers movies. It's hard for me to place them in time. Sometimes, but yeah,
it was early in my like adultish cinema career. So I went in. Yeah,
2008.
18.
Yeah.
So I was not expecting to go into a movie where Brad Pitt is on the cover and Brad Pitt dies. So that was amazing. It was shocking.
The Psycho effect. Hitchcock pulled that off so
exactly.
well in that movie. So there you go. Ian's number 4 is Burn After Reading. My number 4 is the one that might be a little bit iffy, but I don't think so. It's the same in the Scream and Saw vibe. I went with Doubt at number 4.
Oh no, that works.
I definitely think it works. It is a thing. Doubt is a thing, but the movie is also saying doubt. This is incredible. Yeah. Man, the performance. Have you seen this? I haven't
seen it. No, I haven't.
Man, the performances in this one. Next time you're in town, you're going to be in town for a little bit longer. We are doing like catchy
list of shame moves.
Yeah.
Nice.
And Doubt might be one of them. Philip Seymour Hoffman doing incredible work here. Meryl Streep doing incredible work here. Amy Adams doing incredible work here. Just like all around. And then it's just one of those conundrum movies where at the end you're just like, what would I do? Like, how would I handle the situation? What would I believe? What would I think? So yeah, Doubt is always going to be up there for me. It is my number.
It has
4.
just gone onto my little list of films.
Nice.
Just getting far too long.
It's no longer a little list.
No.
It's at least a medium list. What is your number 3, Ian?
Man, now that I'm looking at it, this might be iffy as well, but Die Hard.
No, Die Hard works. It's absolutely
good. Okay,
intentional.
good.
Yeah. No. Die Hard works. Yeah.
Like you, Mr. McClane, Die Hard.
Yeah.
Do we need to say anything about this film? It's great.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's one of the most copied movies in history, probably.
And some films you don't even realize are copying it.
Yes. Yeah, let's just say we have a very recent experience where a movie that I had seen and probably maybe pieced a couple things together, didn't realize is a direct copy of Die Hard, intentional on every level.
Scene for scene.
Just realized that. And people are wondering why we're not telling you what the movie we're thinking of is.
Yeah.
And it's because it's from our other job, and we are sworn to secrecy on some things. Anyhow, Die Hard works, and we've said plenty about it. And man, so many great scenes, so many memeable things.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Come up to the coast, have a few laughs, get together, it'll be fun. Yeah, like just all that stuff. It's just so good.
I know what a TV dinner feels like.
Die Hard at Ian's number 3. My number 3 is Do the Right Thing. This is an incredible look at race in America. Spike Lee, one of his first movies, and just nails it. The feel is right, the tone is right. I only recently marked it off my list of shame within the pandemic, which unfortunately could be any time within the last 2.5 years, unfortunately. But have recently knocked it off my list of shame. And man, there have been many things over the last 5 years. I feel myself kind of getting emotional, but there are many things over the last 5 years that have awakened me to how asleep I've been on some things, and for how long. And Do the Right Thing is one of those movies where I watched and I went, "This was the '80s, man. This was like people were shouting in the '80s. Look at what's happening." And I didn't wake up until progressively over 20 years or whatever. Like it's just it's one of those things that challenged me watching it this much later and going like, like this story is the same, and it's just like so anyhow.
How many times are we going to keep repeating it?
Right. It's a really powerful film, and is my favorite Spike Lee. So
that may have to go pretty much near the top of my list. It's on my list as well.
Yeah. So there you go. Do the Right Thing comes in at my number 3, and is a great imperative because you should do the right thing.
Shouldn't have to be told either. But.
All right. So number 2s. What do you got at number 2?
Oh, I messed up and I gave you my number 2. So my number 3 is... that doesn't sound right.
Ian, do the right order.
Do the right order.
Yeah.
So my number 3 is, well done to Phil for bringing up the right film somehow. Yeah. But yeah, Catch Me If You Can was my number 3.
Well, I'm both trumping you and also not trumping you because it's also my number 2. So
amazing. Yeah. Great film. Leonardo DiCaprio. This was I think that it may not have been chronologically in time order, but in terms of which order I saw his films in, this is where I really took him seriously. And I was like, he's not Jack from Titanic. He's an actor. He's doing a great performance. And that scene where they are face to face and he talks himself out of it somehow is incredible and believable. Like, usually it's like, nope, game over. Like, something ridiculous has to happen. There's no ex machina. He just talks himself out of getting caught. It's phenomenal.
Is such an incredible film. Spielberg, you may not know this, great movie director, really understands how to tell a story. It is kind of one of those Spielbergs that I think flies under people's radar for some reason.
It is,
but it's top tier Spielberg in my opinion. You've got DiCaprio and Hanks, 2 of the best to ever do the thing that they're doing, and doing it really, really well.
Yeah.
Speaking of, you know what, I'm going to say this and it may be wrong because it may be somebody else, but I'm going to say Amy Adams. We just mentioned Amy Adams. I think Amy Adams makes like her first film appearance for like 3 seconds in this movie.
Oh, that's amazing.
This is one of those movies when you watch it now, you're going, hey, look at that person.
Look at
her. So it's either Amy Adams or somebody else.
She's in it. She is in it. Absolutely. Well done. Amazing. Brenda Strong.
Yeah, Catch Me If You Can is phenomenal. Great choice for your number 3, apparently, and my number 2, which brings us to our number 1s, which Ian's is actually his number 5. He mistakenly
I don't know whose turn it is
first, but now, what is your number 1 imperative movie?
Aaron, if you keep being mean to me, I'm going to tell you to get out.
Such a good choice. Such a
good choice. Good. Talk about elevated horror. Did Jordan Peele just invent the genre? Like, I don't know, but he is knocking it out of the park. And this film is like great visuals. I could almost understand this being in black and white as well. I love it. It's such a good film.
Famously,
important.
One of my Miss the Boat movies. This is when people ask the question of what movie grew on you majorly in time. Get Out is that movie. It's not one of my favorite movies. It is now one of my favorite movies of all time. When I saw it, I think I gave it like a B. Like, I liked it. Like, I got what I liked about it. The more I watched it, the more I was in awe of what's going on in this movie. And I think it was maybe the horror elements that kept me, at bay from seeing it right away. But yeah.
Horror feels like the wrong label for it, doesn't it? Like, it technically fine, it's a horror, but it's just not. Like, it's just a film that you need to watch.
Well, for the best conversation about the idea of horror and elevated horror, check out the new Scream movie in theaters. Where, yes, Jordan Peele is name dropped.
Of course he is. Yeah.
So there you go. No, Get Out is a great choice for number 1. My number 1 should be obvious for those who know how much I love Hitchcock. My number 1 is Dial M for Murder. This is, speaking of 3D, something I always bring up when we talk about this movie, is this was Hitchcock's only movie that he crafted for 3D. And so this movie, when it was released, was shown in 3D in some places. Even the most impactful image from the movie that you see on the movie poster of her reaching back is something that Hitchcock was like, if we do this in 3D, the hand will come out into the audience as she's trying to find the scissors. This movie is spectacular in 2D. It's beautiful, and to me, it's the best example of how to use 3D to actually enhance the story instead of as a gimmick. He is using the elements of space in this movie in some really interesting and fun ways. Plus, the plot is just really interesting and intense, and Dial M for Murder is a great one. Grace Kelly is just one of the best, and if you haven't checked
on my list,
absolutely should.
Yep.
It is my number one. Dial M for Murder. Let's talk about some honorable mentions. There certainly are plenty of them. I tried to keep it to movies like I really, really would recommend, as opposed to just naming a bunch of okay to middling movies that are imperatives, because there are plenty of these. Some of them, I guess I can mention from our live chat a couple that people have mentioned that are on my list. Stand By Me was mentioned.
That was on my list.
Also, Walk the Line, another good one that was mentioned in the chat. Let the Right One In was also mentioned in the chat. So this is a fun one. Did you want to kind of go through yours, and then if I have any to clean up, I'll just throw those out there?
Oh, I'm great at doing honorable mentions in the fact that I didn't look at any. So let's go with your list.
All right, I'm so sorry. This one is a little bit of a cheat. Probably the most cheat of any movie I've mentioned, but I really do enjoy this movie. Did a rewatch recently. I think it stands up really, really well. Speed, which it's the most cheaty. It's the most cheaty of any of the mentions, but I wanted to mention it. So
we'll let it.
This one's better along the same lines. Ryan Gosling in Drive. That is definitely what that movie is saying. We mentioned Stand By Me. Attack the Block. Have you seen Attack the Block?
Great I have seen Attack the Block. Amazing. Jodie Whittaker jumping in, our future Doctor Who.
Yes. Yeah, and our future Finn from Star Wars in Attack the Block as well.
Yes.
Why am I forgetting his name? Huge apologies.
Oh, John Boyega.
Yeah, Boyega, yes. Yeah. Recently, Don't Look Up, an imperative movie title that I would throw out there. Really enjoyed that. Kill Bill, Volumes 1 and 2, probably worth mentioning. Walk the Line was mentioned. Run Lola Run. Really fun, interesting movie. And on that same exact title structure, Run Fat Boy Run. Also a nice. Really fun
That's
one.
Good. Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar. That's go. Barb and Star.
Not what that title is saying, but
tone. I love it. It's my favorite new game. Change the tone of a film with how you say the title.
Run Fat Boy Run. Interestingly enough, I just realized, I think I knew this at one point, but David Schwimmer directed Run Fat Boy Run. I was like,
that's so strange.
Is it that strange?
David really Schwimmer of Stab fame.
Yes, correct. And then the only other one I had to mention is really way under the radar, but if you like improv or have done improv before or whatever, there's a great movie by Mike Birbiglia called Don't Think Twice. That is really interesting and fun. So high recommend for me. Don't Think Twice.
Rent.
Ian.
What? Yes, they can't buy. Wrong. They have to rent.
It's like what you're rent. It's my own fault. I said Speed. I should have. It's all over.
You opened the doors.
I opened the door.
Yeah.
All right, let's move into our buried treasure for the week. What is that one thing in any area of pop culture that you want to let people know about? Ian, you're our guest, so you will go last.
Yay.
I'm going to talk about the thing I can't stop talking about. I'm going to mention BeatStar, and game that I am playing. And I mention it here because I mentioned it in other places, and people have really fallen in love with this game. BeatStar is just one of those tap games where you tap the notes as they come down. It's very rock band, Guitar Hero-esque, except you're just using your thumbs. And what I love about it, why I've fallen in love with it is I think the beat design is really well done. When you are playing this game and you are on your game, you feel like some sort of musician god. Like you do, you really feel like you're like, playing these beats in a really fun, interesting way. And so you feel so much cooler than you actually are when you play this game. So
much like Guitar Hero.
There is an element of some of the songs you're not going to like hearing over and over again. Some of them you're going to love hearing over and over again. It's a pretty broad range, honestly, of music genres and types that are in the game. But every song is fun to play. And I still, like, the most joy I get in this game is when I get a new song and playing it for the first time. And it's just like there's this thing of like, can I like read this music? Like, you feel like you're
sight reading.
You feel like you're entering the Matrix, where it's just like I'm seeing patterns and beats and
I know kung fu.
Yes, exactly. I know song fu.
Yes, I know song fu now.
Yeah,
I thought that you were going to say your favorite moment was specifically beating my scores on songs, which you seem to take great joy in. Can't just let me have it.
Listen, I have a little bit of a competitive streak. I'm not gonna lie.
Get out.
But I'm not targeting you, Ian. I'm targeting songs where I don't have a first place. So
somehow that's worse. I'm collateral damage. You don't even care enough to beat me on purpose. It just happens as part of your day-to-day routine. Great.
Yeah,
I'm not even a threat to you.
BeatStar should be available in your app store. My name on the game is Aaron Dicer. There's only one of me, so I think in the game they do like number 1, number 2 if people have the same username.
Yeah.
So it's Aaron Dicer number 1. Ian, I know, is playing the game as well. You're welcome to give out your BeatStar handle if you want. But feel free to...
Sorry, I think it's ENGW, I think. Add somebody called ENGW. You'll have some fun, I'm sure.
So yeah, there's the friend stuff that's interesting is just the competitive stuff, right? Like, seeing where you rank against people.
Yeah, for sure.
And that kind of stuff. So yeah, BeatStar, check it out. It is tons of fun. Ian, what is your buried treasure?
Mine's a film from that was a weird thing to say, 2021. From last year. Not too sure when, but it's Unforgivable. And this was, I believe, a Netflix film. I don't think that's the right film.
That is not the poster. No.
This has got Sandra Bullock, and Vincent D'Onofrio, John Bernthal, Viola Davis. It is not a Sandra Bullock performance that you will expect. Very, very, very different from. Don't go in expecting Miss Congeniality or that film that was that her.
Miss Congeniality?
Was it?
Yes.
Yes, no, it was, sorry. I get that confused with Legally Blonde.
Legally Blonde. I knew exactly what movie you were thinking. You were like, wait, is that Reese
brilliant?
Like, no.
Yeah, totally different. She is rightfully run down on her luck. The premise is that she's recently out of jail for a crime and is desperate to get some kind of visitation rights with her younger sister. It takes you on a journey. It's not for the faint of heart. There's some excellent story twists and turns and beats. Everyone is great in this. I have such a soft spot for Vincent D'Onofrio. Slightly different performance for him. It's a bit more muted. But it's a weird one to say I enjoyed because it's tough, but I really enjoyed it. And I couldn't look at my phone. Phone's buried in the couch somewhere. No one's getting hold of me. I'm in this until the end. Really, really good.
I didn't like it as much as you, but I think it's fine. I think Bullock is pretty incredible in it, and it's probably the thing I would mention most. For me, I bring it down a few notches because I don't think it really takes time in this movie to grapple with the things it's introducing in any kind of meaningful way.
That's fair.
But there's still enough like crime thriller, old school, like edge of your seat kind of stuff that you're gonna be interested and have a good time. And in it. And by the way, it's called The Unforgivable, which may be why the wrong poster popped
Right.
up.
Apologies. That might be why. Yeah.
The Unforgivable. It is on Netflix, and it came out right at the end of the year when like everything was coming out. So,
it got forgotten. Like, it just unforgivably, it got forgotten. Yeah.
It's not The Unforgotten. It is The Unforgivable. And I think in general, even my kind of middling review was kind of on the high side for.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I'm on an island
and that kind of thing. So, I was trying to remember what 39% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I don't get it. I think Sandra Bullock alone is worth more than that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, again, the Rotten Tomatoes thing is a little bit different because it just means that 39% of people landed on even slightly the negative part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not like
it's squiffy.
Yeah. But anyway, The Unforgivable is on Netflix, and BeatStar is in your App Store. Well, we did it, Ian. We managed to do a podcast. Imagine that. Who'd have thunk it, man? You set out to do something. You have all those doubters, and they're like, you can't do a podcast. And we're like, yeah, just watch us.
You can't do a fifth film in a franchise and not call it the fifth film in a franchise. Watch us.
That's right. And be looking for our spinoff podcast called Sif Pop. Thanks so much for joining us today. Sif Pop is part of the Studio DNA podcast network. Find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Ian for hanging out with us today.
Yay!
Ian, where do you want to send people to check out some fun stuff you're doing? Anything you want to promote?
Yeah, you can go to Twitter. I'm at Whitsinned, which is WHITTSINNED. And if you like hearing me talk about movies, but in a much less coherent fashion, it'll be on An Englishman and an Irishman Go to the Movies. The Irishman is the incoherent part.
Also, you do a Star Trek podcast that's a lot of fun. You should mention that too.
I really need to get better at mentioning that. If you like hearing me and Danae, host emeritus of this very show, talk about Star Trek, we have a show called Captain's Pod. We're on episode 5. They're about an hour long, so it's easy to catch up. And at the minute, we're going through Star Trek Picard, but there are plans to do other areas of Star Trek as well. It's a lot of fun.
So there you go. Captain's Pod is available on all podcast platforms, as is An Englishman and an Irishman Go to the Movies. You can check out those pods. Thanks to Phil for producing the audio and video show. Thanks to Drew for doing artwork for the show. Much appreciated on that. And thanks to our Sif Pop members for supporting the show, making this possible. We really appreciate you. If you're interested in seeing what all that's like and possibly supporting, just go check out patreon.com/SifPop. Support starts at $3 a month. There are bonus episodes at some levels, some other fun perks. You can check all that out there. Patreon.com/SifPop. If you want to connect with us, feel free to leave a comment, a rating, or a review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. And you can email us as well at feedback@sifpop.com. And most importantly, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like this show too. So make sure you let them know about it and that listening is much easier than surviving a horror movie if you've just taken a shower. We'll be back next week with The Sifties, 2 parts. Part 1 next week and part 2 the week after that as we award the best of 2021 according to Sif Pop writers, and Sif Pop contributors. So we will see you next week for that, and thanks for being here. Bye.
Bye.
Nice. Jay Bourgeois, Evan, Buck Reviewer, Nick. Thanks for hanging out, guys. I appreciate you hanging out with us on a Saturday morning.
And thanks for all like the Shakespeare recommends as well. I didn't know that. Yeah, what was it? Someone mentioned one of them. The Odyssey. Yeah, I didn't realize, Brother, Where Art Thou? I don't know why I didn't realize that, but I didn't.
Yeah. There you go. Thanks, guys. We need to record a Sif spoil, so we are going to say goodbye to you guys to do that. Appreciate you, love you, and just as a matter of things are always subject to change, the current plan is to do one giant live video show for the Sifties and then split that into 2 podcasts. So it may be a mega recording next Saturday morning. If that's how it works out, that's how we'll do it, since we have the same people on both episodes. we may try to do that. So just be ready for that. We may have a Megapod video next week and then a week off from the video after that, but we'll see. I wanted to let you guys know that, and otherwise we'll see you on the next one. Bye.